Oh, here we go. Last time this Australian Open, final preview and prediction video on the road. One more prayer that the stream doesn't crash, please. Let's keep going. Hey guys, welcome back to the tennis vlog. If you are not yet subscribed to this channel, subscribe now and we'll get on with the video. It is men's final time. I'm quite nervous. I'm never usually nervous for these things, but somehow I got my Sofia Kenin in 3 sets prediction for the women's final correct, and I now feel like there's a lot more expectation riding on this thing than there would otherwise have been. So be nice, be gentle, and I'll do my best. It is the final between the defending champion, Novak Djokovic, the number 2 seed, and the number 5 seed, Dominic Thiem, who has been highly impressive. Looking at the head-to-head, looking at their history, looking at their performances to date, there is a lot of promise in this clash. And what we're going to do is we're going to look at the paths of both guys leading up to this meeting, have a little more look in detail at their semi-finals, look at their head-to-heads, and eventually make a prediction on who we think could come out on top. So let's start with the lower seed. Let's start with Mr. Dominic Thiem, who didn't have the quickest of starts to this tournament. Kicks off against Adrian Mannarino of France, crafty player, versatile. Thiem won that one in straight, so decent win, 6-3, 7-5, 6-2. Then there was a struggle against Alex Bolt of Australia, a match that Thiem referenced to after his most recent win over Zverev. That was 6-2, 5-7, 6-7, 6-1, 6-2 for Thiem. So even though the 2 sets that he lost were tight, he was pushed there. And great stuff from Thiem, I think, to rebound and win the final 2 sets as straightforwardly as he did. So big stuff there. Moving on to the third round, Taylor Fritz, the number 29 seed, was his opponent. Fritz has really stepped it up recently, actually, over the last year. Back in his earlier days, he was a big face, a big name on the American scene. Kind of went off the radar a bit, but he can play some good serve and volley tennis, uses the court. Thiem came through 6-2, 6-4, 6-7, 6-4 even. So Thiem wasn't doing too great in tie breaks at the beginning of the tournament, but that has soon changed around. Gael Monfils, ever athletic and ever unpredictable, 6-2, 6-4, 6-4 in the 4th round, and then it got down to business with Rafael Nadal in the quarterfinals. If you missed that match, you missed out. 7-6, 7-6, 4-6, 7-6 for Thiem. I did talk about that match in more detail in the previous preview and predictions video I did for the Thiem versus Zverev match. Thiem really stepped it up when it mattered. Iffy from Nadal, up and down, and Thiem both on the back foot and turning points around, moving into the court, using the off forehand and backhand, deeply impressive. And that gave him a real confidence boost, I feel, going into that most recent match against Zverev, which he came from a set down to win 3-6, 6-4, 7-6, 7-6. So I'll give a bit more analysis on that particular match when we've gone through Djokovic's path, which shouldn't take us too long. Djokovic has had a little bit of a stroll in the park, so to speak. Started off against Jan-Lennard Struff, can't even get my words out, which was, I mean, by scoreline, his toughest match to date. 7-6, 6-2, and then dropped to set 2-6, 6-1 for Djokovic. So got that out of his system very early on, and moved on to a 6-1, 6-4, 6-2 win over Tatsuma Ito, 6-3, 6-2, 6-2 over another Japanese player, Yoshihito Nishioka. They're quite underrated, these Japanese guys. They've been taking steps up under the radar. But Diego Schwartzman was not going to be a tough enough match in these conditions in round 4. That was a 6-3, 6-4, 6-4 win for Djokovic. And then on to the quarterfinals. And as I said in the last preview video I did featuring Djokovic, the match that I thought could potentially cause him trouble. Raonic was in great form, has been brutal in his attacking tennis here in the past, has the serve and volley, and wouldn't just have rallied with Djokovic from the baseline. Guys of that status ranked further down are not going to beat Djokovic rallying from the back of the court. And Raonic obviously loves to serve and volley, loves to come forward. That really showed the vastness of Djokovic's repertoire. The drop shot came out. He used the lob, the low passing shots to pull Raonic around, and he had to think his way through that match more, and I think very impressive that he came through in straight sets. And then the Federer match, and Djokovic said after that match, Federer not fully fit, but he was still Roger Federer. He'd still saved 7 match points to come through his previous round, and he'd still survived John Millman earlier in the tournament. Djokovic won that one 7-6, 6-4, 6-3, having been 4-1 and love 40 down in the opening set. So let's speak about those most recent matches a little more. What I would say first is I've seen less of Djokovic on the way to a Grand Slam final this tournament than I have probably since he won the US Open with 2 retirements and a walkover or something like that. Partly because I was very busy with another tournament during the first week of this one, but also he hasn't really hung around. He has not spent that much time on court. So I'm giving him partial blame for that. It's not just me. But what I have seen of Djokovic, he's looked very much himself. The way Djokovic is all over the court, rising in the big moments, and using his first serve very well. Now, against Federer, he had a very healthy first serve percentage, 73% overall, which really sets him up to execute the way he wants to play. 11 aces to a single double fault, and then very clean differential of winners to unforced errors. Actually, in the Federer-Djokovic match, both of them had a clean differential, but Djokovic more so, 31 winners to 18 unforced. Definitely not his cleanest numbers he's ever had, but I think impressive for this stage of the tournament and the quality of opponent he was against. Had many break points, converted 4, but net points won 11 of 12 for Djokovic. Once he gets himself into that winning position, it's unusual for Djokovic to get tight and miss his marks. So the key stats for Djokovic, he won that one pretty healthily. What can we say about it? I think at the beginning, when Federer went up 4-1 and love 40, I remember watching and thinking, oh, great, good for Federer. He's doing what he should be doing. He's relaxed and he's swinging. Quickly realized that the reason he was swinging so much was obviously because he was not at 100% and therefore could not move in the way he usually is able to and is most comfortable doing. So that was Federer's only real option at the beginning of that match to see if he could get anywhere to absolutely go all out. But what it did show is that at the moment, that is the way to beat Djokovic. I don't think you're going to outcraft him. I don't think you're going to outmaneuver him, but you could outhit him the way Federer was doing in the early stages of that first set, going for broke and using the firepower, using the pace, which is harder to do in these conditions or has been throughout the tournament with the courts playing a bit slower. So if Djokovic brings that level, I think Thiem is going to have to bring attacking tennis. Let's look at Thiem's match against Zverev. Obviously, the questions were, would he be up for it? Would he be alert for it? Would he be physically able for it after the clash against Nadal? Yes, he was. I think great mental strength from Thiem to come from a set down. Zverev looks really relaxed, given that it's his first Grand Slam semi-final. Very casual, very at ease, and was getting a lot of first serves early on. When Zverev is serving well, he's one of the best servers on tour. So Thiem was required to have a lot of patience. This was not, I don't think, until the latter stages, the last set or two, I don't think this was a physically taxing match for Thiem so much because of big serves from Zverev, occasionally keeping it short. Tactically, as the match went on, Thiem did, of his own accord, engage in slower, longer rallies in order to watch Zverev over hits, because towards the back end of the match, I think Zverev was getting a bit tighter. And once again, Thiem rose up in the big moments, and I think that Nadal match was key. I was reflecting, and it was the ATP finals, and in that final against Stefanos Tsitsipas, where Thiem lost in a final set tiebreak. And I think over the past 12 months, Thiem has stepped up so admirably, almost under the radar because the focus is always on the big three. But his consistency across surfaces, the way he's looking to attack more when he gets the opportunity, the strength off both forehand and backhand, the developments he's made, and you can see it in his results if you stop to really assess them, have been very impressive. And I think what he's doing now is really stopping to assess results, not let them get him down, but let them spur him on and take the next step up. And I think we've seen him do that at the back end of this Australian Open. 5 tie breaks won on the trot now against players who were very in form during Melbourne in Nadal and Zverev. So big up to Thiem. I know that's very, very impressive from him. But obviously everyone's big question now is, does he have the energy levels for a clash with Djokovic? Let's quickly look at some of those official stats, actually, from the Thiem Zverev match, just so that you know I'm not talking rubbish. So 43 winners from Thiem overall. He really had to step up and win that match. Zverev had a cleaner differential of winners to unforced errors, 42 winners to 33 unforced. But it just shows again how Thiem was able to identify the key moments of the match and produce during them. There was some real stellar execution from Thiem in points that really mattered. 4 out of 9 break points won to Zverev's 5 out of 14. Again, Zverev with more opportunities, but Thiem stepping it up when his back was against the wall. And that's what you want to see at the back end of one of these majors. 81% of first serves landed by Alexander Zverev. And that's where keeping your calm is so key. I've been very impressed by Thiem's ability to shake off the points that don't go his way and move on, commit to the same game plan he had and just keep going for it. It sounds so simple, but in the heat of a close clash, that's something that's instrumental. It's so important. So let's get back to that key question. Does the Thiem have the energy against Djokovic? Djokovic, who is a knowledgeable guy, who's played Thiem before and who will know that at this point, with the sharpness that Djokovic has with the drop shot, with the options he has in his game, the thing to do is to make Thiem move and try and make him feel it. What I would say as well is that I think people underestimate Thiem a bit. You know, he has been known as a clay courter, and clay courters are known for endurance. And the more I see of Thiem, the more I see him taking steps following Nadal. The stance he's taking to return serve, he's so far behind the baseline, and that was doing wonders for him against Zverev. It was actually working really well for him. And honestly, he had a really tough match against Djokovic in the semi-finals of last year's French Open. That one went to 5 sets and some close sets to end that one. It was a really tough one, and yet he was still able to give Nadal a good go in the final. And I mean, I'll come to this later, but if he can take a set off Nadal in the French Open final, having been given the real runaround by Djokovic previously, then he sure as heck can take one off Djokovic at the Australian Open. But Djokovic is the king of Melbourne. 7 Australian Open titles won. Never lost in a final. That's an insane statistic that he probably doesn't get the credit that he deserves for. That's extreme mental strength. Even if he'd not won any other Grand Slam, for him to have 7 wins in 7 finals at the first Grand Slam of the year, when players are fresh out of the starting blocks and they're pulling at the bit, going for the kill, that's big stuff from Novak Djokovic. So I don't think you can underestimate that. It's going to take something big from Thiem to knock him off here, but the head-to-head shows that Thiem is a player who's given Djokovic more trouble than most in recent times, so don't go writing him off just yet. He's won the last 2 meetings, including their meeting in the round-robin stage of the ATP Finals in November. Thiem won that one 6-7, 6-3, 7-6. I don't remember exact plays and the way points were won in that match, but I remember being surprised when Thiem came out on top, because I felt like it was one of those matches that Djokovic just always knows how to come through. And it was a real statement from Thiem to step up and get that win. He beat both Djokovic and Federer in that round robin stage. And I believe that one or both of them went out in the round robin, but I mean, I can't keep track of everything now. So Thiem really asserted himself there. Obviously, there was that 5-set grinding win over Djokovic in the French Open semi-finals, and people can toss that aside and say, yeah, well, it's the French Open, it's on clay. Courts in Melbourne aren't playing that fast, so you can draw similarities. So what I'm basically trying to say here by looking at the history, Djokovic, by the way, won their only other 2019 meeting. That was in Madrid in the semi-finals, and that was close as well. 2 tie breaks for Djokovic, and I think Thiem stepped up his mentality from there. Thiem won the 2 before that. I mean, Djokovic won their first 5 meetings straight and then Thiem has won 4 of their last 5. So it does say something. I mean, Djokovic 2017, 2018 was on a bit of a wander in terms of form, so we'll give him that. But it does say something about Thiem and his ability to read Djokovic's game and his mentality and his confidence when he comes in to face Djokovic. He's just taken down Rafael Nadal, who is the best grinder on tour and one of the most intimidating opponents. And Alexander Zverev, who's completely different in terms of his clean, lethal power at times. So coming past Zverev and his huge serve, maybe Djokovic is not going to look all that intimidating, but Djokovic does have the record, he does have the history, and he does have fantastic form coming into this final. You can't argue with 1 set dropped. From what I've seen of him, he's looked really comfortable. And everyone talks about Djokovic's competitive fire and his desire to improve. And that's got to be scary for his opponents, because that was a really decent win over Federer. And, you know, give him credit, because yes, Federer was not at his best, but then it can be even harder to concentrate and to produce when you know that your opponent is hampered, and you know that something as big as another Grand Slam final is basically within your grasp. So I think credit where credit is due for Djokovic to getting that one done in straight sets, because as we saw with Federer's healthy advantage in the first set, could easily have gone beyond that. And if Federer had got that first set, who knows what else could have happened? Who knows if he could have found a new lease of life? But let's cut to the chase, because we've been going on over 15 minutes. I'm by no means writing Dominic Thiem out of this one. There was a part of me after I watched him beat Zverev that thought, I can easily see him raising that trophy on Sunday, because he's really stepped it up. He's really closed the gap between himself and the big 3. But then it's Novak Djokovic, who's won 7 titles here, not lost a final here, who is chasing the records of Nadal and Federer. It's no secret. He's close and he's playing catch up, and this is a great opportunity for him. So I don't think it's fair to say that Thiem doesn't have a chance because he'll be fatigued, etc. I'm not bringing that into consideration as much. However, I do think that Djokovic will see the potential there, with Thiem having played a lot of long matches, and I think that he'll give him the runaround. Thiem has chances, but I think in order for him to be able to take those chances, Djokovic needs to bring a lesser level than what he brought against Federer. So Thiem has big shots at this, I think, with a helping hand from Djokovic, but it's on the racket of Novak Djokovic, in my opinion. Thiem needs that big wide serve that he brought against Zverev. He needs the T-serve and off forehand 1-2 punch combination that got him some free points and got him on the front foot. He has to attack in this match. He has to ensure that Djokovic doesn't have him on a string and is pulling him to and fro. But Djokovic knows what he wants to do here, and given that I predicted Djokovic to win the tournament at the outset, it's not fair for me to go against him here based on the fact that I've seen more of Thiem, to be honest, than Djokovic this tournament. So I'm going to go with Novak Djokovic to win this match. And I'm very tempted to say in 5 sets, but Djokovic really stepped up and proved himself last year against Rafael Nadal, who'd looked so great, and then Djokovic dismantled him in straights. So because Thiem's been so good, I'll give him a shot to do something, but I'll say Djokovic to win this one in 4 sets. So let me know if you agree or disagree. Please try and do so respectfully. I mean, I sit up nights taking in-depth notes on these matches, and I don't do it to be told that I'm biased in favor of one player or another. If I was biased, I wouldn't be sitting up doing all this work. So yeah, do leave your comments. Agree and disagree respectfully, and I always enjoy seeing other people's opinions. It makes me doubt my own. You all had me convinced that Muguruza was winning that Sofia Kenin match, so it gets interesting. But thank you for your support of the channel, thank you for watching, and hopefully this was worth your time. And I'm not sure when I will be back, because as we all know, these days I only upload consistently during the Grand Slams. But I hope these videos have been worth your time, and I will be back, all being well, at some point in time, so subscribe to be ready for that. Thank you for watching. I'll be reading your comments, and I will see you at the next video.